Vote Save America is the get out the vote operation for Pod Save America, the Obama-era Teams podcast and media operation. What?
You didn't call them bros.
I did not call them the podcast bros. There you go. I guess self-named podcast bros. I thought was interesting at the end of the rally, both Laura Trump and the head of the RNC co-chair talked about get out the vote. And that is not something we heard very much from in 2020 from Donald Trump in the Republican get out the vote operation. Should Democrats be worried that this second bite of the apple or third bite of the apple, Republicans have figured out how important that is?
I think what Republicans should be nervous about is the fact that Democrats are actually knocking doors and getting out in the field this cycle. In 2020, we were being responsible. COVID was at its height, so we didn't send a lot of folks out to knock doors. And Republicans actually still had people on the doors. And I think in a lot of states, Joe Biden ended up winning, but those margins were really close. And so now we have had people on the doors for some time. At Vote Save America, we've had volunteers going since May, and the organizations we've been funding have had volunteers going since January. So I don't think Democrats should be concerned. It might be the other way around.
Lisa, is there a decided difference in Republicans' get out the vote operation? And also, at least from my sort of relatively anecdotal experience with Trump rallies, there is a lot more emphasis on registering people, on gathering information, on data, on voting early than there was in 2020?
I mean, absolutely not. The Republican Party has been really, really good about data for a lot longer than Donald Trump was on the ballot. But the thing that's different, I think, now is that Donald Trump was challenging the way the ballots were filed. He was talking about not voting early, not voting absentee. And the RNC actually went to the campaign and said that's not the way the business should work. In fact, if anything, they need all the votes that they can get. And so that, I think, is probably the one thing that you can see that's different from 2020 is that Donald Trump is actually talking now about voting early, about absentee ballots, and the process of just getting people registered and out to vote.
Shaniqua, North Carolina, it is unquestioned that the hurricane has decimated mostly red areas. That is, now, we can debate the response and whether or not it's been slow or not. But I was up in northwestern Pennsylvania, same deep red area, working class voters. They're angry about how they feel people of their similar ilk have been left behind. What is the danger for Democrats, whether it's true or not, perception is reality, of this perception that Asheville, areas around Asheville, North Carolina, the mountains of North Carolina and eastern Georgia are being left behind in a week after this massive hurricane?
I think we've seen, President Biden was just in North Carolina, and Roy Cooper has been all in through the western part of the state. I think it's really hard for Republicans, specifically Donald Trump, to say Democrats aren't responding when they're literally there. You can see them, it took a little while for the news cameras to be able to get in there, but the people who live there have seen their elected officials on the ground there. Public spaces like public libraries have provided Wi-Fi. A lot of government resources have been made available as possible. So, I think it's really hard to push lies out there when people are actually
There's a difference, though, I think, between quote-unquote lies, and I understand that there's Wi-Fi available at public libraries, and Lisa, there is a perception among folks that they've lost everything, and the National Guard isn't showing up, and the helicopters that they saw plucking people off roof decks in Katrina took days to get there. Where does Republicans live in saying we want to help our people versus sort of exploiting suffering that always happens after a hurricane?
Leland, we've seen this. We've seen this play out in Katrina, Rita, Sandy, you name it, in the country where there is an initial sort of patriotism and collaboration that happens. And almost immediately, like after the week 2 and week 3, when people still are suffering so much, there really is a backlash against government. And that, I think, is what the Trump campaign is actually seizing on already, because they know that that's the way that this worm is going to turn. People will not get help fast enough because they have been decimated in that area. And so that alone, I think there's a risk, but I also think that they're thinking ahead and they know that that could very well play to their advantage.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.